right, we have a question here, which is, what's a good way to get consent? That's a great question. It makes a lot of sense for people to be thinking before having sex for the first time or with a new person about how they're going to communicate about it beforehand and during the sexual activity. A lot of people talk about consent as like getting someone's permission to do something, which the permission part and being in agreement, super important. That's the basis of consent. But I also like to think about consent as like how people come together to collaborate and decide what they're going to do together. It's really about making decisions together about what you're both interested in, what you're excited about, what you want with each other, and then making a plan. So some resources that I really like about consent, there's this book I think is awesome called You Know Sex, and their framework of consent is just great. So they say there are at least 3 things you need to get consent and 3 things you need to give consent. In order to get consent from someone, you have to ask. That makes sense, right? Like you got to figure out a way to ask a question. Paying attention both to what they say and like their body language and how they look when they're saying it. And then checking in, especially if you're not totally sure you read them right or you're understanding what their answer is. So to answer this question, like what's a good way to get consent? I would think about asking the question somehow, paying attention to what vibes and what the answer is from the other person, and then making sure you're still checking in. If you're interested in learning more about consent, one of my favorite books about it specifically is called Can We Talk About Consent? And I think this book really thinks about consent in ways that are fun, easy, approachable, it's really colorful, but also gets into some nuances and some complexity. If you want to talk more about consent and like how to communicate with sexual partners beforehand, while things are happening, or like following up after, that's also something we clinic educators can help with. You can text our number to make an appointment with us at any time, or you can just call the Family Tree front desk and they can set up an appointment for you.